In this video we're going to take a look at factoring by grouping. Factoring by grouping is used when we have a polynomial with 4 terms that we're asked to factor. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the first 2 terms, see what we can pull out of there, and then we're going to look at the set of the second 2, or the third and fourth terms, the second set of 2, and see what we can pull out of there, and then hopefully we're going to end up with something that we have in common that we can pull together. So let's take a look at how that works out here. In this first one, I want to see what can I pull out of n cubed and 2n squared, or excuse me, 3n squared. Well, what do they have in common? They don't have any numbers. There's no coefficient here. It's just a 1. So I can't take any number out, but there's 3 n's being multiplied here, 2 n's being multiplied here, so I could take an n squared out, and that's going to leave me with n cubed divided by n squared is n, and then 3n squared divided by n squared is going to be plus 3. Okay, now I took out an n squared out of the first one, and I was left with n squared times n plus 3. Let's look at this second part, the second 2 terms, or the second set of 2 terms here. What can I pull out of both of those? Well, let's use the strategy of looking at the smaller one, the number specifically, and see if that goes into the larger one. In this case it does. We can take that 4 and that'll go into 12, so we can take a 4 out. In terms of the variables, we've got an n here, but there's no n's there, so we're not going to be able to pull out a variable in this case. So we're just going to take out a 4, so plus 4, and then 4n divided by 4 is going to be n, and 12 divided by 4 is going to be plus 3. Okay, now notice what happened. We ended up with a term here that has an n plus 3, and then another term that has an n plus 3. Well, we can factor those n plus 3's out to the front and see what we have left. So we have n plus 3 here. If I take an n plus 3 out of this piece right here, I'm left with n squared. So this is going to be n squared. Then on my second term right here, I have 4 times n plus 3. I'm going to divide out an n plus 3 and going to be left with plus 4. So we're there. Okay, now that is factored by grouping. Let's take a look at another one here. In this one, again, I'm going to look at the first 2 terms. What can I take out of there? What do they have in common? Well, starting with the variables, we've got a d in both. Then with the numbers, well, let's see, 2, and that's about it. So it's going to be 2d coming out of there. So 2d, then 10d squared divided by 2d is going to give me 5d. Then minus 6d, take out a 2d, it's going to be 3. Then one thing that I neglected to mention in the first one, we can always check what we did here, and we should check. Distribute this 2d back through, and we should end up with what we started with. So 2d times 5d is 10d squared. 2d times negative 3 is negative 6d. Okay, now let's head over to this second part here. We've got 35d minus 21. Well, let's see. What can I take out of both of those? A 7. So let's pull a 7 out of both. So that's going to give us plus 7. We're going to take out a positive 7. 35d divided by 7 is going to be 5d. And then negative 21 divided by 7 is minus 3. Okay, now notice again what happened. We've got this 5d minus 3 in both of our products here. So I'm going to pull that out front. So we have 5d minus 3. Then what's going to be left here if I divide by 5d minus 3? Well, it's going to be a 2d. And then this piece, again, dividing by 5d minus 3, I'm left with plus 7. Okay, so let's take a look at another one. Again, same story. Look at the first 2 terms. What can I pull out of both? Well, let's see. We've got 4. 4 goes into 12, so I'm going to take out a 4 for sure. Then, in terms of the m's, well, let's see, we've got m to the third and m squared there, so I can take an m squared out of both. So I've got 4m squared, then what do I have left? Well, 4m to the third divided by 4m squared is going to leave us with just m. And again, that, if you want to write it out like this in division, if that's helpful, you certainly can. The 4's are going to cancel out. This is 3m's being multiplied. This is 2m's being multiplied. We're left with 1. Then, negative 12m squared, going to divide that by 4m squared, which is going to leave us with minus 3. Okay, again, remember I could distribute that back through, make sure I get what I started with, and I would, so let's move on to the second part. Here we've got 15 minus 5m. What do they have in common? I can take a 5, here's my smaller one, that goes into 15, so I'm going to take that one out. Don't have any variables in common, so I'm going to take out a 5. So I've got plus 5 here. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and then negative 5m divided by 5 is minus m. Let's take a look here. Notice what happened. We've got a m minus 3 and a 3 minus m. So, very close, but they're not the same. How could I get it so that the signs here would be flipped? Because I need a positive m and a negative 3. Well, what if I would take out a negative 5 rather than a positive 5? Let's see. If I take out a negative 5, then I would have 15 divided by negative 5, which would be minus 3. And I would have negative 5m divided by negative 5 would be plus m. Again, I could distribute that back through and see negative 5 times negative 3 is plus 15. Negative 5 times m is negative 5m. So it's still the same thing. But now, notice, I could reorder this to be m minus 3. So I have negative 5. Over here we've got the 4m squared, m minus 3, like so. And then I can pull that m minus 3 out front. So I have m minus 3 times 4m squared here. That's what's left after I take away the m minus 3. And then over here, minus 5. So there we go. So sometimes we have to finagle it a little bit. If they're very similar, we just need to switch the signs, take out a negative, and then those signs will flip for us. Alright, let's take a look at this last one. In this one, we've got 12m to the third, 15n to the second. What do they have in common? Let's see. 12 doesn't go into 15. Let's make our way down. 6 doesn't. 4 doesn't. How about 3? Sure enough, 3 will come out of both of those, so I have 3 there. Then n to the third, n to the second. What do they have in common? N to the second. Then I'm going to divide this. 12n to the third divided by 3n to the second is going to leave me with 4n. Then minus 15n squared divided by 3n squared is going to give us minus 5. Okay? So we've got that. Then this piece, let's see. What do they have in common? Well, we could take a 2 out of both. So I'm going to take out, and in this case, let's see. Well, let's just start by taking out a positive 2 and see what happens. So if I take out a positive 2, negative 8n divided by positive 2 would be negative 4n. Then 10 divided by 2 would be plus 5. Well, we've got something pretty similar, but they're not exactly the same. I think what I'm going to have to do is pull out a negative 2 here instead. So if I pull out a negative 2, that would be negative 8n divided by negative 2 would be 4n, positive 4n. Then 10 divided by negative 2 would be minus 5. Hey, there it is, just what we're looking for. Now I've got that 4n minus 5 in both, like so. And there we go. Again, pull it out front. So we've got 4n minus 5 times, what's left here? 3n squared. What's left here? Minus 2, like so. Now, one last thing I want to show you quick before we wrap up this video. Sometimes we might end up with something like this. Maybe we have 3x squared times x plus 1 plus x plus 1. Okay, if I'm going to factor that, I can pull that x plus 1 out front, and I have this. And then here, I'm going to divide this by x plus 1, so what's left is going to be 3x squared. Oops. 3x squared. Then for this second part, sometimes people want to forget that part, but I'm taking x plus 1 and dividing by x plus 1. Well, if I divide anything by itself, it's going to be 1, so plus 1. And notice how if I didn't have that plus 1 there, all I would have is basically this first piece. So in order to get that part over there, I've got to have the plus 1. So be on the lookout for that as you're doing factoring here. If you take away everything that's there, remember there's always a 1 left over. So factoring by grouping. It's when we've got a polynomial with 4 terms. We're going to look at the first 2 terms, pull out what it has in common, then look at the second 2 terms, pull out what you've got in common there. Hopefully we end up with a binomial that's shared by both of our terms, the first and second ones there. And then we can pull that out front, and then that will be multiplied by the pieces that are left. So we end up with 2 binomials like so. This is factoring by grouping. Hope it was helpful, and I know you'll do fabulous. Keep working hard on your math.